Hello everyone and welcome back to another politics video where today I wanted to talk a little bit about this sentiment that I keep seeing from Labour supporters, and specifically this one certain account that keeps coming up on my feed on Twitter that I just have to talk about because I think this mentality is the very mentality that is going to mean that Reform win the next election. But we're just going to dive right into this. Subscribe if you're new, that'd be greatly appreciated. We do regular politics videos here on this channel, and any support would be greatly appreciated. But with that said, let's dive right into it. So the springboard from today's discussion was actually by an account called @ToryWipeout, or Jake. Support Starmer or get Farage, up to you, really. So obviously the core message of this is simple: either you support Starmer and you support the current version of Labour, or Farage gets in. Now, setting aside the fact that if we look at the polls, in many of them the Greens are actually outpolling Labour at the moment, and in certain seats the Greens, or in some cases in Wales, for example, places like Caerphilly, Plaid Cymru have a better chance of winning than Labour do. This is the exact type of mentality that voters hate. Voters hate being made to feel that they are obligated to vote for a certain party, or in other words, that a party is entitled to their vote because they are the least bad option. And as this comment rightly points out, this is the exact same strategy that the Democrats, used in America. And look at how that turned out. You know, their offering to the country was just, well, we're not Donald Trump, guys, so vote for us. And look how that worked out. You can't just run on not being the other guys, especially in this hyper-polarized world where populism is on the rise. You can't just offer the bare minimum. You have to actually offer something to people in order to get them to vote for you. And it's not good enough to guilt trip people into doing it by saying it's either me or Farage, it's either me or Farage. That's not going to work. And it will only embolden people who do want to vote Farage to say, well, yeah, it's us or them. It doesn't have to be like that. And by consistently pushing this message, you basically make people less likely to want to vote for Labour because you're essentially saying that they have to, which is not going to work. And it doesn't work in the States, and it's not going to work here. The only reason Labour won the last election with the majority that they did is because the Tory vote collapsed and imploded because of how unpopular they were. Running on "we're not the Tories" is not going to work a second time. It just isn't. They had a very deliberate strategy in 2024 of offering very little, frankly, in the way of actual, substantive change from the status quo. They kind of had what was called in the media the Ming-Val strategy, the idea of don't promise too much, and then essentially we will carry ourselves to victory that way. And that worked the first time. It is not going to work a second time. And we're already seeing it. We can't seriously be suggesting that the only reason why Labour are struggling in the polls right now is because of, right-wing misinformation in the media. I will 100% grant there is a lot of that. We are in a very right-wing dominated media in the UK. But this idea that, you just have to, support Starmer and current version of Labour if you don't like Farage is ridiculous, especially because, given certain seats, other parties may be better positioned to actually win votes there. But the other thing I would point out is one of the other things with Starmer's current version of the Labour Party, they've been constantly bashing those on the left of the Labour Party, basically saying, we don't want you here. I think Starmer even said once, if you don't like the changes we've made, there's the door.
If you don't like the changes that we've made, I say, the door is open and you can leave.
So you can't then be surprised when people turn around and go, okay then, I won't vote for you. By the same notion, you've got Labour cribbing off of Reform's note sheet, calling the UK an island of strangers, increasingly ramping up their rhetoric on immigration and other policies like it, which leads the general punter to say, well, what's the difference? If you're gonna completely crib all of their notes anyway, why are we bothering empowering that? If anything, that's not something we should be encouraging. That's something we should be saying, no, that's not what we want. And if anything, voting for Labour in its current form only encourages them to get closer and closer to reform. This mentality doesn't work. It doesn't work. It's not the mentality we need. and it's fundamentally going to backfire. I will say this now, if you try and put the voters in a position where it's Labour or Reform, it will backfire. It will. It just will. We've already seen it. We saw it in Caerphilly where they tried to claim that it was Labour versus Reform, and everyone went to Plaid instead. We've seen it in other elections as well. It'll be interesting to see how Gorton and Denton turns out. But this like entitlement of, oh, well, you have to vote for either, well, it used to be obviously Conservatives or Labour, now I guess it's Labour or Reform. It's exactly what puts people off, because it implies that like a vote in our current system for a different party isn't valid. Like, and it kind of just disenfranchises people from the whole political process even more. And I think it's one of the other reasons why like first past the post needs to be reformed, which actually Starmer used to believe in, but quietly now that they've got a majority, doesn't seem to believe anymore. The thing is, I am not tribal when it comes to this. When I think Labour is doing good on something, I will say that they've done good on something. For example, I think a lot of their legislation of AI recently has been very good and much needed. And I will also say that I was grateful that, even though I wish he'd have gone further, that Starmer did call out Trump over his comments on British troops in Afghanistan. But at the same time, I'm not going to give them flowers just because they're not Reform either. You know? This whole Mandelson scandal is terrible. The fact that they knew he was like this, because everyone knew he was friends with Mandelson and still appointed him, is something worth calling out. And like this same person also said, let me find the tweet, Mandelson isn't even in the top 10 political scandals of the last 5 years. And it's like, I don't know whether that should be our barometer. Like, obviously I think it is about, the same level as some of the Tories scandals. But even if I was to say that it wasn't, like even if I was to concede that ground, is that really the race we want to be doing? Is, oh, well, this is a scandal and it's terrible, but it's not as bad as some of the other ones. Like, no. I think the public wants better than that, and Labour, one of the few promises they made was to be better than that. Basically to say, we will be the change from the Tories. And so far, I don't think they've really delivered on that, in my opinion. And I think, judging by the polling, you can see that reflected in that as well. But this is just a mentality I wanted to talk about because it infuriates me. Because, like, it will backfire. This is the exact same strategy the Democrats used in the 2024 election in America, and it completely backfired. But let me know what you guys think. If you did enjoy the video, be sure to give it a like, subscribe if you're new, and I will see you later.